These are always one. itself is killed because the arrows works.
My name is Akiva Feinstein. It's an honor to be here today, in particular because a lot of my families don't always remember me after so many years, and I was quite honored, that I had the opportunity to officiate in the previous generation by Seville Shack, and the family was kind enough to remember me, and we remembered the connection that we made through Seville. And in this difficult moment, to remember, to share the life, of Daryle, I'm also honored to be here as well through that connection with the previous family. So here today, we're here to perform a few functions. We're here to perform the function of mainly eulogizing Daryle. Talking about her life, all the challenges she went through, all the things she did, her inner strength, the way she lived her life. And we use that as an inspiration for ourselves, to live a better life, a bigger life, to do more from her inspiration. And whatever we do, it should be a merit for her. Whatever it is she made us do, inspired us to do, it should carry her. Because now she's not in this world anymore. She can't do her good deeds. She can't do her mitzvahs. She can't help people in a physical way. But when we help people, when we do things, and we do it as an inspiration through her, it's almost like she's doing it. And that's really what we're here for today. And simultaneously, we're here, the folks in the audience, is to do the mitzvah of consolation and comforting the mourners. To help them make them feel better, help them to process their loss. And sometimes the best way to process the loss at this time, when it's very intense and the feelings are very strong, is to share stories of their loved one. And the hope is that you share the stories, you hear the stories, and you really, really feel that the person is still alive. They still have the eternity, they have existence here, through what they did, through their deeds, and that will never die, that will never change, even though their physical selves have moved on. So we begin with a selection from the Psalms to give us some kind of guidance and direction. And we're going to read the familiar Psalm 23. We'll first say it in Hebrew, then we'll say it in English. Mizvah David, Adonai roi lo iksar, binoi steshech yarbitzeni, almei menuchos yenachaleni. Nafshi yeshovev yancheni v'maglei tzedek leman shemo. Gam ki elech begeit salmavis lo irara ki ata imadi. Shivtecha umishantecha hema yenachamuni. Tairach lefanai shulchan neged sayrai. Yishante v'shem en roshi, kosi ravaya, achtov v'chesed yirdefuni, kol yemei chayai, v'shavte v'beis adinoi, la'arech yamim. A Psalm of David, God is my shepherd, I shall not lack. In lush meadows he lays me down, beside tranquil waters he leads me. He restores my soul. He leads me on paths of justice for his name's sake. I walk in the valley, overshadowed by death. I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the view of my torments. You anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. May only goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord for many long days. Another custom at Jewish funerals is to read what is known as the Eishes Chayil, the woman of valor. And that prayer in particular is something we say at the person's funeral, but we also will very often recite it on Friday nights. So the week comes to a close, the Shabbos table is set, the family's sitting around the table, and the first thing they have to realize, the most important thing, is where all this food come from. Why is the house clean? Why is this house organized? Why are we here today? And that goes to the mother, that goes to the wife. And in some households they read it, in some households they sing it at the Shabbos table before they take the first bite of the gefilte fish. They sing the Eishes Chayil. And so sometimes we just read it at funerals, but since Daryle was so musical, she was unlucky enough to get a rabbi who's not so musical, and we'll sing it a little bit for her, the Eishes Chayil. Eishes Chayil meyimsa v'rachok mipnei mechra batach v'alev bala v'shala lo yeksar Gamal sutoi v'loira kol yemei chayecha darshet zemer ufishtim v'tas bechapetz kapecha Haisa keni yaisaicher mimerchak tavi lachma B'takam b'yai laila, b'titin teref l'visa l'chayk nairosecha, zama masade v'tikachechu, mipri kapech natu karem, chagra b'oz masnecha, b'tamei tzresecha, tamakitoiv sachra, Lo lichbe belayla neira yadecha shilcha v'kishor b'kapecha samchu fale kappa parsa liyani ve'yadecha shilcha le'evyan l'sira v'beis ha'mishaleg v'bos ha'le'amim marbadi masasala sheish vargman levusha noda b'sharim bala B'shiftoim ziknei aretz nadi masas havatim kor B'chagar nasno knani Oz v'hadar levusha B'tischak le'yoim acharoin Picha pascha b'hachma B'sayras chased al l'shoina Sophia halicha ispeisa B'lechem atzus lo sochel Kamu v'nech v'shura Ba'la v'alucha Rabos panos el sochayil Yatali sakulana Sheker achein Vehevel ayofi Isha yiras Adonai Itis halel tenula Mi priyadecha Mi halelucha Bishari masecha. So read a few of the snippets or selections from it in English. We say, an accomplished woman who can find, far beyond pearls is her value. Her husband's heart relies on her, and he shall lack no fortune. She repays his good, but never his harm, all the days of her life. She seeks out wool and linen, and her hands work willingly. She rises while it is nighttime, and gives food to her household. She envisions a field and buys it. From the fruit of her handiwork, she plants a vineyard. With strength she girds her loins, and invigorates her arms. She discerns her enterprises good, her lamp is not snuffed out by the night. Her hands she stretches out to the distaff, and her palms support the spindle. She makes a cloak to sell, and delivers a belt to the peddler. Strength and majesty are her raiment. She joyfully awaits the last day. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and a lesson of kindness is on her tongue. She anticipates the ways of her household, and partakes not of the bread of laziness. Her children arise and praise her. Her husband lauds her. Many daughters have amassed achievement, but you have surpassed them all. False is grace, and vain is beauty. A God-fearing woman, she should be praised. Give her the fruits of her hands, and let her be praised in the gates by her very own deeds. Like I said before, I'd like to share with you a few words for us to remember her, for us to be inspired by her, and for us to feel good that in her place where she is right now, she'll hear these words and know that all the good deeds and all the things that she had done were noticed and were appreciated. So one of the first things we talked about with the family was that her Jewish identity was very important to her. So it was always important to be Jewish, to be connected to be Jewish people, always able to keep the holidays, always to be very, very proud of who you are. But the only challenge was she married a gentleman who wasn't Jewish, and his roots were not Jewish. But one thing she did was to encourage him to come along with her on the journey, and he did. He went through conversion, and he participated in a lot of the Jewish rituals, much like she liked to do as well. The thing about her was that she had a serious side, a philosophical side, but she also had a fun-loving side. And I think anyone who knows her, that she loved to go to parties. And I think some people go to parties just because they just want to have fun, they want to forget life. But I just think she had an inner happiness. She had an inner joy that she wanted to connect to, she wanted to celebrate. And there's something called disco dancing, which probably people, even my age, don't know what it is anymore. But I've heard that it's quite energetic, quite fun. And that was something that she used to do with great gusto. She had a partner, she had someone she did it with, and it was a lot of fun. It gave her a lot of joy. And when you would see her, one of the biggest compliments you would tell her is that she looked like a Hollywood star. So I know deep down, to her that wasn't as good as telling her you're a great person. You have a lovely soul, you care so much about your family, but hey, that's a little bit of a cherry on top of the dessert. Tell her that she looked like Elizabeth Taylor when you could. And so we all know that one of the things that she loved was antiques, collecting things from the old days. And, one of the things about antique collectors is they could be very rich, or they could be very not rich at all. And I think she was more the latter. Not like it really mattered, but she did it for the sake of the collecting and because she enjoyed it. And I don't want to go making theories about it, but all the people I've ever known who are antique collectors, they're people who really appreciate the past. For them, where they come from, or the roots, the life that they had before when they were younger, was really golden, was really special. And it's really part of remembering that and connecting to that, when we could. And I think that that's maybe the secret of why she had such a love for her parents, and she took care of them, and she honored them, and she was always with them, was because she deeply appreciated and deeply connected to, her years that they, as a child, and all the good stuff that they gave to her. So her and her husband, they built a family. They had 2 lovely sons, who are one on video, one close by, who are deeply mourning her and missing their dear mother. And, it was a hard thing because she helped her husband in the business. She did a lot of things. But I guess sometimes people just have different goals, different directions. And in the 90s, they had to divorce, and she had to start over, all over again. And she was a person who loved things, enjoyed things, but she wasn't able to put it all together. The whole formula, the business, the happening, the making things. But she sure wanted to be. She sure had those aspirations, and she sure had those dreams. And one of the dreams, that, her son spoke about, or I'm sure both sons would say, was that there was a dream that she would go to Denver, that she would spend her later years, with her grandchildren who were a little bit younger, and she would participate in their lives. And she would be able to teach them and give over what she learned from her generation and the generation before to them. And they would really benefit from having a grandma, a bubby nearby. And it was truly a beautiful dream. And it was something I think we all hoped, but it was just very hard for her to make it happen. Hard to get on that airplane, hard to accept those tickets and to make it happen. And I think, as her son explained to me, that she wasn't able to do it, and it was hard that she wasn't able to do it. You go through life, and you wish you could have done things, and time passes, and you realize sometimes that you missed, an opportunity. But at the same time, you have to realize that God has His plan. Whatever God does for us, whatever God makes happen, is meant to be. And clearly it was a reason why she was meant to be in Cleveland, because some very, very special people loved her and took care of her and made her feel really, really great. And such a dynamic person, such a person who moved and shook and did all kinds of things, loved to party, so to speak. Obviously getting old and sickness and illness would be a very difficult thing. And unfortunately, when COVID came, she came so close to leaving this world, and COVID left on her health a really, really difficult imprint, and left her very incapacitated to do a lot of the things that she wished she could do. But some of the great people next door, some of the great people really helped to make it okay, to pad her falls, help her pain, to make her feel better, and to make her feel important, So as much as she could have gone to Denver, obviously, again, in God's plan, she was very well taken care of and made to feel very special over here in Cleveland. But I don't think she would want us to end on a difficult note. I think she would want us to end maybe, with the fact that she loved her children so much, and her grandchildren, her grandnephews, grandnieces, everything like that. And they would say of her that she was very thoughtful. She was a truly thoughtful person. So what is a thoughtful person? Is that they meet you and they think what you need before what they need. And somehow that's what she was always doing when she met her family members. How can I help you? What do you need from me? How is your life? Your life is more important right now than is my own life. And so we have here her brother, who grew up with her, and she was a little bit older, and he shared that the way that she took care of him and the lessons that she taught him, the way that she got him through school. I don't know if he was kind of a naughty kid. I'm not sure. He just looks a little more on the creative side. I don't know. Maybe she was pretty kept busy, but whatever. She gave her brother a very, very important gift. And lastly, we finish maybe with one of the things she enjoyed the most, which is photography. And again, I don't want to wax too philosophical, but I think a photographer is a beautiful gift. Because what does a photographer do? They see a crazy world. They see all kinds of things, good and bad and whatnot, but they have the ability to focus on one thing and capture that memory, and it stays with them forever. And perhaps that's just how she was. She looked at life, which had a lot of challenges, but she could zoom in and take a shot, and a permanent shot, of her lovely family, of her life, and all the things that made her good and made her feel very happy. And that's how she'd want us to remember her. So go through life, don't get distracted by the bad things, make sure you got a great shot and go with it. Unfortunately today with digital cameras, it's too easy to take shots. It almost does it by itself. But in her case, she did it herself. So anyways, I don't want to wax on too much and too philosophical, but she has a lovely son here who's going to say a few words for her on her behalf.
It was a great job. I appreciate that. I don't know if there's much more to say. But as I was sitting here, and I know everybody, another friend that popped in just out of the blue. I appreciate that, Todd. So I guess I'm going to kind of do things a little differently. I didn't really plan anything, but well, I'll just chronologically go. She was born D-Day +2. So if there's one thing I learned in history is what D-Day was, and that's how we know her birthday is 2 days after D-Day. For all fellow Marines, my wife's family. A few years later, her sister was born, and then 5 years later, her brother was born, and it was like a sibling rivalry between my mom and her sister, probably for attention for her brother. So I was told that her younger sister would try to steal her boyfriends and stuff like that, and there was definitely a rivalry going on there. But everybody turned out okay. My mom was more of the kind of like conservative, find a husband and, went to college but find a husband and kids, stuff like that. And her sister and brother were more free birds. They just flew, the wings weren't clipped, and, did a lot of stuff in California and stuff like that, which was cool. He was the cool uncle. So as time went on, just different things that she took me to. She always pushed certain things. Maybe I didn't like it, but we went to see the Demyanok trials. She wanted us to go to see that, and that was quite an experience to go to that. She loved being in the movies as extras, and one of her oldest friends, Mavis, she was in Those Lips, Those Eyes with her. There's a picture with her and another friend as well. And she loved taking advantage of the extras that were locally in Cleveland. So she was in 3 movies, and that's the kind of stuff she liked to do for sure. Going through. The one thing I will say, she was notoriously late at everything. Is she here right now? Okay, maybe she is. And that kind of, it probably rubbed off on me a little bit, which I don't like. But she still always, if she wanted something, she was going to make sure that she had it. Like even if we went to a local musical, everybody's in the auditorium, and she sees 2 seats in the front row, and she pushes all the way forward to get those 2 seats. So it was kind of embarrassing to me at the time, but it was just what you experience, and you see some good experiences with that as well. She never accepted a no. She always pushed till she got a yes, and that was her mantra, really. Going through the 80s, you touched on, she was the disco queen. She would go out dancing all the time. She was really good. I usually don't give compliments as a kid to a parent, but she definitely was really good. And musically inclined, she knew how to read music, play the piano. She accompanied all the time. My uncle, her brother, is probably the best freestyle pianist or piano player. I've never seen anybody play like him, personally. But my mom was able to read music and accompany and do all that stuff for different, musicals, plays, stuff like that. So, she did all those things there. The dancing. There's something else that would come to me there. But as time went on, she didn't really take care of herself. She had diabetes. She didn't care. My grandmother lived to be over 100, So she thought she could live to be over 100, I'm sure. And but my grandmother, you know, she ate certain things. She walked to the bus stop to work every day. She was regimented. She was in good health. And my mom just didn't take care of herself the way she should have. So when she had problems recently over the last year, especially, she just thought it would just go away and it would be okay. But I tried. So, everybody that's here, so everybody that's here is important friends and family to the family. She adored her grandkids and her nephew. She loved being together with my wife's family. The McPhersons, I grew up with their son since 5th grade, and they had to deal with, my mom had to deal with the craziness that we did. So they were, as a team, they were dealing with I probably lost a couple lives as a cat back in the day. Mavis, she's a longtime friend of yours and very close, and she never had anything but good things every time that we'd see. And then we got Bobby and Gail and Marty and the Flax family. She always enjoyed being with them with every holiday, and they were the constant on the Flax side. They were the cornerstone of the family. And then we have Mark and Joyce. You were the cornerstone of the Shack side. So, Carolyn, you were a great friend. You met along the way. You had things in common. You know, when life changed, and your paths crossed, and you guys, you know, she adored you too. Janet and Ed Rychek, I've known their kids since I was going to Annisfield Day Camp as a little kid, and she was, my mom was best friends with your sister, Lois, who unfortunately passed away with COVID, and you know, somehow my mom didn't, but it was at the same time, and they've known each other, we've known each other for a long time, and you guys are dear friends of the family, and just very important. Todd, you've been around since 6th, 7th grade, and you know, families, your mom, my mom would always, you know, whenever they see each other, they'd have in common, whether it was at the McPherson's house or somewhere else, stuff like that. Mike is a good friend of Neil, and he's been at my grandfather's funeral, my grandmother's funeral, my aunt's funeral, my mom's funeral. I'm sure there's other funerals.
Don't forget Dana.
Huh?
Don't forget Dana.
Dana's funeral. I was at the life. You went to Chicago?
No, I didn't.
You were local. Okay. All right. Yeah, you've been obviously a great friend over the years, and I haven't had too many big conversations, but I know you. I know you. So, and my buddy Jimmy, he's a godfather of my kids, and he's a great friend of the family. So, I figured that there's not a ton of people here. I know everybody, and everybody means something. Oh, there's Bert. He just slipped in. Did you know Bert slipped in? Oh, you want to be a pallbearer, by the way? Okay, all right. Bert has known my mom and, Neil since probably, I'm guessing, 5th grade, 6th grade. Huh? Kindergarten. Okay. So when I see him, I've known him since I've been born, and it's really good to see him as well. So all you guys are friends and family, and you're all family. All family to me. So appreciate you coming. Okay.
I've been a rabbi for a long time, and I have never been to a service where the orator addresses everyone in the audience and explains how they're all connected to his family in such an eloquent way and a beautiful way. And I don't know what the word for that is, but one word in Yiddish is a Ziskait, a very sweet person, and I think that's what his mama would say, and that's what Seville would say, is that she raised children with real Ziskait, real sweetness. That they can get up here and just acknowledge and thank and appreciate all the lovely people, that made his life and his mama's life and the family's life just so special. So, as a rabbi, we have to say a little something, a little Dvar Torah, a little something about what's going on in the Jewish world. And I was looking for an entry, a hook, and when it was said that she was always late, right? She was always late, yet she was so excited to be there. I tried to make a little sense of it. And we have coming up on Thursday night, we have the holiday of Shavuot, of Shavuos. And Shavuot is the holiday of the giving of the Torah. And there's an interesting custom on Shavuot, is that, you have your blintzes, you have your dairy, you have your milchig foods, but one of the ways you observe the holiday is you stay up all night long learning Torah. And that shows the appreciation of Torah, the love of Torah. But one of the reasons why we do that is that we were late at Mount Sinai. Right? The Jewish people got to Mount Sinai, Har Sinai, they're ready to receive the Torah. They were excited, but they overslept, and they were late. And we always have to make up for it. So we make up for it by not going to sleep at night, studying up all night, so we don't miss the opportunity in the morning. So just a cute little thing to end things. So after today's service, we are going to go in procession to the Mount Olive Cemetery. And over there, we're going to be able to place her in her final rest and her final burial. And just before we do that, before we get up to do that, and we have the pallbearers who assist us, we have the important mitzvah of Kaddish. And we were speaking about how important Kaddish is, and there's a musical tone that goes through this family, and there's a musical tone that goes into the Kaddish. And we were debating, should we say it just at the cemetery, or should we say it here? But just in case we don't have all the people going to the cemetery, if I may suggest that we'll see it in here today. So I will call you up, and if you have your Kaddish cards, and we're going to rise and recite the Kaddish, and then we're going to remain standing, and the pallbearers are going to come forward, and then we're going to honor the deceased and give her an escort as she goes out the door. So please rise if you can for the Kaddish. Yeah, backside. We'll stand for a little bit. escort the casket out the room, and what will happen is the father and the casket will go out first, the family will follow behind the casket, and then everybody else will follow behind those family members in the back. We have the father. Father, it looks like. Everybody acting like the father.